I'm sad we missed out on all the Sims chat because it's important stuff, I think.
The thing is, I'm not
Someone
even.
had,
I don't even have
Yeah.
the patience to like build things myself. So I just download from like the library and then I just change whatever I don't like because I have my own taste. But yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you
running
do
the
the
Sims on your brand new laptop and downloading a pack that completely models Catalonia. So like it's the Sims Catalonia, but it's the entire region.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that weird the new Pokemon game that was like based in Spain for some reason.
it was great.
Yeah,
I
and like
love
they had La
I,
Sagrada Familia and like weird stuff, but like Pokemon's like Nintendo style, and I was like, what the fuck is this?
I love like one of my favorite like little silver linings of a new Pokemon game coming out is it's just a wonderful insight into what do the Japanese think of this country. Since they first couple of games were just like regions in Japan, and then I can't remember what was the first one that was like it's not Japan. But they've done a couple of places now. They've done France, they've done the United States. They did Spain, and they did. I really enjoyed Pokemon England. That was good. That was the last game, Sword and Shield. They had Pokemon England, and it was just like, what's the new cute Pokemon? It's like it's an electric corgi, and I'm like, yeah, it makes sense.
And then there was like, England, but the trainer has to like live stream it on Instagram that he's hunting the Pokemon.
Exactly. No, on Snapchat.
Yeah.
They made a version of they did legitimately make a version of Weezing that has like a giant mustache and a big giant like top hat, and it's just like capitalists, industrialization, and then there's also a sheep. This is England, pollution and sheep. I'm like, yeah. It's adorable. And then I play in Pokemon Spain, and it's just like there's a whole mini game about making ham sandwiches. And I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I guess that's Spain. Fuck it.
I mean, it's weird because Japan or Japanese people love Spain for some reason, and there's like a lot of Japanese people that dance sevillanas, which is like crazy. There's this kid, literally a kid on Instagram, a Japanese kid who dances sevillanas, and like all the comments are just Spanish people being like ole ole. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. I mean, I bet there's more Japanese people that dance sevillanas than like Spanish people, because it's not, if you're outside of the south of Spain, it's not a thing, really, culturally at least. So
it's good to know that Spaniards are the same as Irish people, that like any sort of international recognition, we're just like falling over ourselves to be like, you are the greatest person ever. It's like whenever someone goes to be interviewed on a movie junket in Ireland, it's like, oh, have you tried chicken fillet rolls?
How do they know? I need to know, Tom.
It's just like small country mentality, I guess. Like, oh my God, someone knows about us.
I mean, like, Spain's arguably historically
bigger,
a lot more significant than Ireland.
I know, no. Small
it's
country
more about
mentality.
Catalonia.
I think
no, it's more about Catalonia, I think.
There was, that's fair, but there was a meme that just to do like something I saw on Twitter that just really made me fucking laugh, was just really the small country mentality historically of Spain, of just like the British discovers a weed, and it was like, I think we could sell this and get the entire nation of China addicted to this. Spain discovers an entire mountain of silver. Another 32 billion to a bunch of German mercenaries. Fuck it.
Oh yeah. Anyway.
Hey, welcome to your weekly corner Späti. It is me, Kieran, and I'm joined by Uma.
Hello. And
today we have from, a whole bunch of stuff that we'll promo at the end, but person who I talk to on Twitter mostly, Tom. Hi, Tom. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on. Long-time listener, first-time guest, I suppose.
You you called in a sense. You could say caller. I think it's fine. Anyway, we're going to be talking to Tom about online Catholicism because I thought that would be fun for me and Uma to talk about as well. But before that, I do have some news. It's important to talk about the news. The news is important. In serious news, we talked about this with the Flap 24 guys. We kind of joked that they're going to make Mario Draghi Prime Minister of France. Well, they did the second best thing, which is they made fucking Michel Barnier. Macron has appointed Michel Barnier from like wooferendum fame, basically, to Prime Minister of France. In kind of, we have a Mario Draghi at home kind of sense. He's just kind of going to be like a fun little technocrat to try and appease everyone. It's a terrible situation because, one, he's like beyond his kind of like international reputation as like the Brexit negotiator or whatever, which like, you know, there was like some hashtag FPPE or whatever posts that were like kind of horny for him. He's just kind of shitty. He's from Les Républicains. He tried running for their like presidential nominee in 2021. He came third, and he ran on a platform of like moratorium on all immigration and stuff like that. But he's a big nerd, so that's like a huge plus for like technocratic government. I was looking at the photos of when he met the Nazi Pope before, because he met the Nazi Pope. This is slightly related to the topic of the episode. You remember that Pope? He still posts. Well, before he died. I think he's dead now. But yeah, he was posting for a bit. We all know the Nazi Pope. Yeah, like there's photos of him meeting with him back in his capacity as some sort of French like interior ministry kind of thing. And he's just got like graphs with him, like bunch of very colorful like charts that he has in a little folder he brought to the meeting. I was like, what chart do you show the Pope? Like what aspect of like French public data or economic data is of relevance to the Pope? I'm
so weird. Also, like, obviously the Pope is not interested in that whatsoever. Like, you have a country that is, in theory, really not religious. And what graphs are you showing him? Like, how many people are converting to Catholicism? Like,
well, for that,
maybe it's like, you know, here's the increasing quality of French wine. Here's the relative like price stability of like gilded robes. I don't know.
I think like for that particular Pope, it might have been like immigration numbers broken down by ethnicity. I think he would have really appreciated that into France. Data which is illegal for the French government to collect, but you know, maybe Michel Barnier in his capacity as being in the government had like access to the good le racisme, whatever that word is.
The secret le racism department in France that secretly tracks ethnic data.
No, not that like census, the real census.
Way. And it's like, it's not like, oh, we can like actually track their skin color. They're like, what bread are they buying? Is like, you know, the Simpsons bit is like, you know, white people buy bread that's like this. Everyone else buys this bread.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got some sort of weird like mapping system that they're very certain is foolproof, and the data is great. It's not. It's nonsense. Everyone who buys Nutella is secretly an Italian. Things of this nature. Anyway, so yeah, he's made prime minister basically with the support of Marine Le Pen, because they kind of went into this knowing that like the NFP was just going to like oppose this, and thus it kind of looks like they're going to get in with the support of Republic en Marche, Renaissance, Macron's parties. Les Républicains, obviously, because he's from Les Républicains, even though he's like even though he kind of like represents a version of Les Republicains that doesn't really exist anymore. The kind of like, let's bring a graph to a meeting with the Pope rather than like, I don't know. I think Les Republicains now would bring like a burkini to the Pope and ask his opinion on it.
Yeah, it's the
And
difference
then,
between like continuity, Les Republicains, the real Les Republicains.
Exactly. The hot Catholics, as I will reiterate that theory, have won the culture battle for Les Republicains. The cold Catholics of Les Republicains have been, I don't know, they're in Dre's basement. Who knows what happened to them? Shady's basement. Sorry, Dre's in the basement. Yeah, so that's kind of happening. It sucks. It basically seems like there's going to be this weird technocratic government that like Le Pen could just collapse any moment she decides. So, yeah, have fun with that, France. Anyway,
there's going to be a massive, at the time of recording this, tomorrow, Saturday the 7th, there's going to be a massive protest. So it was at first called, the thing is, it's been called for weeks, or like a couple weeks, against the fact that Macron was not fucking appointing a leftist prime minister and was just ignoring the elections. Exactly.
Yeah.
And now they're obviously angrier because they're like, well, fuck you. You did appoint someone, but obviously not the person that you should. So, yeah, excited to see Paris burn tomorrow. It's going to be
fun. I do love, like, you're going to have to, I think one thing at the end of his tenure that I will respect Macron for is doing a bunch of insane controversial moves in the one country that I feel like you can't get away with doing insane controversial moves. Like he's playing being a dick in government on challenge mode kind of thing. But yeah,
he just has like a huge maybe like humiliation kink or something, and that like the sights of like all the like French people out in protest is just it's the only way you can get it on now.
Well, that's modern liberals though, isn't it? It's just like when people disagree with me, it must be that they're like fundamentally wrong or stupid or uneducated in some way, which, hey, if you listen to the bonus episode about us discussing the East German elections, that's basically also the analysis of liberals about East Germany. Is just like, oh, they're all just stupid for voting wrong, unless they voted for Greens, in which case they were right. I don't know. But to fun news, I have fun news. Norway is a country.
Apparently.
So, piece of news number one is that there was a famous beluga whale in Norway. To put a bit of a dampener on this, it's now dead.
No.
Tom might be able to relate to this, but it kind of seems like we're dealing with a story of like Norwegian fungi, or like they had like a beluga that just kind of like hung around near the coast, called Hvaldimir. Hvaldimir. So he was found this like a week basically floating dead, and now there's an autopsy happening and stuff like that. It's now kind of been revealed, although we don't know who did it, that he was shot several times.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Has anyone contacted Captain Ahab for comment?
They do have problems with guns in the Scandinavian countries. Like, yeah, that is really a massive problem. That is insane, because I was thinking, Psych, the TV show. I don't know if
yes, I know of it, and I know that you're watching it at the moment.
Yes, I'm about to finish it. But anyway, there's one episode that is literally that. Like, they are investigating the death of a fucking beluga or whatever that was shot to death as well.
Hell crazy. Yeah! So there's a bit of a context here that I should give. So, okay, so initially when he was first found, they reported no obvious injuries and stuff like that, but everyone was super concerned because he was age 15 and the average lifespan of a beluga is 60. So, bit of context here. and I'm gonna pronounce a big old fucking word, a big old fucking Norwegian word. So hang on, the Etterretningstjenesten, which is their internal intelligence services, ever since he was first spotted, believe that this whale was trained by the Russians to gather information on naval bases in Norway. Because when he was first spotted, allegedly, he had a GoPro attached to him. And someone was able to read on the side of it in Cyrillic, like in Russian, property of St. Petersburg.
But maybe the beluga whale was just like a super futuristic like Twitch streamer. It was like, instead of like saying, hey, what's up, chat? It just goes. That's
or
their
just
version
like,
of thank you for the bits.
Or like Russia has developed its own belling cache, but like the only people who volunteer for it are cetaceans. Instead of
my thing is that
doing OSINT.
The Russian military industrial complex is not advanced enough to weaponize whales.
I mean, I don't think it was trained at all. Like, if the Russians did something to it, it was just like, oh look, there's a beluga whale. Let's just put a GoPro on it. Like, you know what? Like, who the fuck? Like, how can you even train? Like, it just makes no sense. Like, probably they just wanted. Whatever. I don't care.
Just showing it like tourism. Tourism videos of Norway, like, just like, doesn't it look lovely? Don't you want to go there?
Economy is died.
All right, so that was Mario Renzi saying economy is died. So yeah, there's some people in kind of like OSINT circles, like Bellingcat types, who like have pointed some satellite footage in around Murmansk that like shows some sort of like whale farm thing that they believe is being used for this. But like, I don't know, I don't buy it. Like, I think it's probably just like, yeah, the Russians slapped a bunch of GoPros onto like Arctic whales and just be like, if it sees something, it sees something. That'll be useful, I guess.
Exactly, literally.
Like, to be honest, like, I would arguably say that rather than it being like the military, it's actually the media, because like most military-aged Russian males are currently dying in Ukraine. So who's, there to make the Russian equivalent of like Saturday Night Live or Peep shows? Like, oh, #1 show in Vladivostok, watching the whale.
I mean, I would tune in for the whale.
Like, so who do we think killed the whale then? Like, just a spy, like a Norwegian spy just went bam bam.
It's actually just like the top donator in the whale's Twitch chat. It was just like super annoyed. He's been donating money and the whale has not acknowledged him.
Yeah, exactly. Like he kept requesting that the whale play like Ratchet and Clank 2 or something, and he never did it.
Yeah, the whale's whale was ignored.
Yeah. So yeah, I just thought I should also mention that the name, I kind of gave it away. Havaldemir is a portmanteau of the Norwegian word for whale, Haval, with Vladimir, as in Putin. So like that, like this has been a known quantity of the beluga for like the last. I think he's first spotted a year or 2 years ago. And immediately, like, that's a spy whale.
We are like getting back to like fucking like Cold War shit of like we're weaponizing animals. I can't wait until they start like doing like esotericism. Like there's just a guy in the Kremlin like pulling tarot cards. I mean, it's probably as useful as the Russian, military kind of like tactics in Ukraine. You might as well be pulling tarot cards and it's like, which unit is going to get thermite dropped on them from a drone today? Okay, it's the tower, but it's upside down. I don't know.
We have discovered the card captor's cards in the Volga River, and now we will be summoning the power of the cloud. Card captors of the clouds, what the unexpected now. Anyway. That show was heavily edited in the English release. It was just meant to be about girls falling in love, and then they tried to turn it into a Pokemon thing through editing. It was very weird. Strong recommendation for investigating whatever the fuck happened to card captors. Anyway, other Norwegian news that I have written down. Sorry, Uma, do you remember card captors? Is this before your time?
Is it the Sakura one?
Yes.
Yeah, because in Catalan, I watched it in Catalan, dubbed in Catalan, and it was called Sakura the Card Hunter.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I don't remember shit though. I was like 7, so
I think it was probably like all European like language dubs of anime were always done like a bit more responsibly, whereas like the Yanks didn't get anime basically until the 90s, and they were just like, make it all Pokemon. Just, I don't care what the show was originally, turn it into Pokemon again.
I mean, Catalonia had all the big animes like dubbed in Catalan, and they're back now in like the public TV app, and like it's great. I love it.
We need to make everything Pokemon. Evangelion, Pokemon. Cowboy Bebop, Pokemon. Serial Experiments
Akira.
Lane, Pokemon.
That's what it was like. It was just a bunch of non-union voice actors from Texas put into a sweatshop conditions to just all do their best Ash Ketchum impression. Anyway, more Norwegian news, because last week we mentioned Durek, and there's been more. I discovered more stuff about it. Some of it's news, some of it's not. So Princess Martha and Durek Verrett have gotten married in a private ceremony with exclusive rights being sold to Hello Magazine in the UK.
Typical.
To cover the wedding, as well as a Netflix documentary crew, which is currently trailing them. So,
are you serious?
Yeah, there's going to be a.
Like, you're not joking.
Nope.
I'm so excited.
The locals in this very beautifully appointed Norwegian town are complaining like nothing on earth about the like camera crews that are now around, because it's like it's got like a famously beautiful hotel, but then like the rest of the town is like 12 houses and a pub, and like presumably everyone's job is selling fish. Anyway. So I've learned some things about Durek and Martha that I thought I should bring up. But first, some things about the wedding that kind of also color this. So Cynthia Bailey of The Real Housewives of Atlanta was present. That's probably like the biggest name.
Yes. Norwegian royalty exists in the Bravo universe. This is great. Durek, go on Summer House season 9. That's all I'm saying.
Is it because he's American and they somehow know each other?
So yeah, Durek kind of claims that he has a career as like basically being like a Karomo type figure, like Karomo from Queer Eye, basically just like for celebrities of like talking to you about your feelings and then making that weirdly vaguely spiritual. That seems to be like what Durek claims his job is. Which it may or may not be. I'll tell you for why I can't determine that a little bit later. But another thing about the wedding is Durek also claims to be the personal shaman of Gwyneth Paltrow, and that they're very close.
I believe it. I believe it 100%.
Yes.
However,
where does the guy that shit himself in Gwyneth Paltrow's house fit into this? That's what I need to know.
Well, we don't know because Gwyneth Paltrow didn't come to the wedding.
Oh,
yeah, she's a busy person. She's a busy person.
She's got to put jade eggs inside her. You know, she's got to sell candles that will fix, I don't know, arthritis. No,
what was it, like a vagina candle that like smelled like her vagina, apparently.
She just keeps trying to walk through American security at an airport, and it just keeps going on. She can't leave the country. They're just like, I don't care who you are, ma'am. I don't trust this. Get back.
You know, she studied in Madrid for some reason, or in Spain, and she speaks perfect Spanish with like a Spanish accent, and it's so off-putting.
Wait, really?
That explains why she's so weird, because she spent time in Madrid. No one spends time in Madrid and comes out normal.
Exactly.
I think, like, okay, if you come out with Spanish and like accentless Spanish, it's kind of like, that's strange, because if you told me she was like a Barcelona type, like, you know, she comes back from her time in Spain and tells you to pronounce it Barcelona. I would totally believe that about Gwyneth Paltrow.
The thing is, she was living with like a family there. Like it was like kind of I don't know why I know so much about this, but yeah, she was living with a family. Yeah, and like she will randomly to this day just post a video of her like making a Spanish omelet and being like.
Sure.
This is a tortilla that I learned to make when I was in Spain.
She should have to fight Hilaria Baldwin. Like,
she speaks more Spanish than Hilaria Baldwin.
I'm sure she can.
Hilaria, what was the word that she was like? In Spanish, we say something, and she just made up something. Well, no, she didn't make up something. But
It was,
like,
you know, it was the reverse, where she was pretending she couldn't recall an English word.
yeah.
Like, what's
she
the
was
word?
like,
Tomato. I'm so sad that reality TV show didn't go ahead about the Baldwin family because Alec had to go and shoot someone.
I mean, like, listen, you know, like Gwyneth Paltrow probably has like lots of holdovers of her time in Spain. Like, she can make a perfect tortilla. You know, she's like really into flamenco. She also has like an altar to Franco in some cupboard in her house. You know,
I was going to ask, when was she in Spain? Because at what age is Gwyneth Paltrow?
True. She's not that old, is she?
She's in her like 50s.
Paltrow.
Yeah, so maybe it was probably the 80s. I would guess that's probably when, like, teenager is like the youngest you send your kid off to live with. Because, like, living with a family makes it sound like she was a teenager.
Oh, she was 15. Yeah.
Yeah.
In Talavera de la Reina. That's even worse than Madrid. She was in Talavera de la Reina, which is like how does an American end up there? You know, like that's insane.
Putting it down now,
like,
Gwyneth Paltrow, CIA op.
Yeah, like,
she was there to do
like,
the transition to democracy.
Something like that is like how when you're an Irish person, you go abroad, you just like encounter other Irish people in the strangest of contexts. Like someone told me before that they were like backpacking through Peru and went into this random bar in this random town, and there was just an Irish guy working behind the bar.
Yeah. Continental Europeans love putting us behind bars. It's what we're for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like you make every halfling a thief in your D&D game. You put every Irish person behind a bar. All right, I've got more stuff about Durek because the Norwegian listeners have discovered that we have discovered Durek, and thus are sending us tidbits and information. So there is. We talked about this last week, but there is like a Meghan Markle quality to this because Princess Martha is also very spiritual and also very weird, but it has now only become a problem because a black guy has come along and is doing basically the exact same thing. Princess Martha, for example, dropped her title of Her Royal Highness in like 2002 so she could start a business. And one of those businesses is running a school that taught students that they could create miracles and talk to angels. So like that.
What?
Yeah.
Once again, the Gwyneth Paltrow connection is just getting closer and closer.
Yeah, they're besties for sure. Jesus Christ.
And then at the same time, like, they also made a bespoke gin for their wedding, which did have to be withdrawn because the logo on the gin bottle was too close to the royal seal. And people were like, you can't do that.
Yikes.
Anyway, Durek is a bit more of an interesting character, but he is so aggressively hated by a lot of like the worst people in Norway. I think normal people in Norway are not paying attention to this, right? This is like the normal person in Norway is like watching football, watching their TV shows, getting involved in some sort of very grim police ordeal.
Watching the beluga whale.
Yeah, watching the whale, killing the whale, normal Norwegian things. But like then there's this section of Norwegian kind of like monarchist conservatives who are like have taken to aggressively editing Durek's Wikipedia page My
How
understanding,
jobless. Jesus Christ.
I know, but like as soon as it was, it's real
jobless behavior.
It's jobless behavior. It is. Because like I arrive on the Wikipedia page and I already feel like a freak for knowing that like I need to go to the talk tab, the discussion tab, the like tab where the like discussion about editing the Wikipedia page has happened, because I know some fucked up shit are happening here, because it opens with like Direct Barrett is an American con artist. And I'm like, excuse me, what? I don't think you could open the biography of a living person Wikipedia page with that line. And like everything is just like, and he did this, and that's why he's shit. And he's technically not a member of the Norwegian royal family. Don't get it twisted. And it's just like, this is not a neutral Wikipedia page by any stretch. Like, the man's insane. Don't get me wrong. Like, he did, like, there is a line in there that is true. I did look up the source. He claims that he had psychically prior knowledge of the events of 9/11 and chose not to intervene.
Incredible. Love it. He psychically warned Mark Wahlberg to not get on that plane.
Yeah, like the next line is like, Mark Wahlberg is his favorite actor.
Like, it's just the anti-Semitic conspiracy, but the person who did it was this guy. And he's not.
I mean, the flip side of it is that he knew that Seth MacFarlane was going to invent Family Guy, and he was like, I cannot deprive the world of this incredible piece of art.
Absolutely. This is it. He also he created and sold amulets that he claimed would defend against COVID.
Sure. I mean, that is con artist like behavior.
That's literally the definition of snake oil salesman.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like not to side with the racist monarchy lovers.
No. I cannot stress enough that how much of like the stuff that's on the Wikipedia page is true, but it's totally written with such vitriol. Like they really are just typing on Wikipedia so fucking angry. And like, because you can do the comparison with Martha's Wikipedia page, because she's done insane shit as well, and it is not written like that. Mm-hmm. She's like, she is a glorious, beautiful woman. She represents the state. She's so great.
Yeah.
She's into weird homeschooling shit. Don't worry about it. Anyway, also the guy who wasn't invited to the wedding, who like the stepson in the royal family, who's like a real piece of shit, recently stole a scooter. Like an e-scooter, so there's also that. I'll be keeping tabs on the Norwegian royal family going forward, I think, because these guys are fucking nuts.
Also, the outfits I sent you a video of like it was like a Spanish video, but it was of the outfits the people wore to this wedding, and it was like the most atrocious fashion I've ever seen in my whole life. Like, it was bad. Jesus Christ.
We are watching the Netflix documentary.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to hear direct talk. He's fluent in Norwegian as well. Like, this is another thing. Like, he's when he moved there and started dating the princess, he got very into explaining how he was part Norwegian, which may be true, may not be. It's hard to tell. But
like, this whole thing just feels like the setup for a Hitman level.
Yeah,
it's like your special target is this like American con man who's like marrying into a royal family, and you have to like, I don't know, poison his tinctures.
Good job, Agent 7. Now make for the exit, and you just like jump off a fjord or like into the ocean, right a whale carcass out there.
Good job, 47. Your next task is to take out the whale.
The whale has seen too much. The whale is a witness.
There's like a missing part of the whale's Twitch stream that actually just shows like a bald man with a barcode swimming towards it.
Oh god. Anyway, I love it up there. Freaks, the lot of them. So next we get to the main topic, which is
speaking of freaks.
Speaking of freaks, absolutely. Online Catholicism, or I guess like I'm gonna turn to you, Tom, to like define the topic, because when I first kind of like heard you talking about this, I was like, okay, online Catholicism, the recent converts in America, who I always described as the people who think Catholicism is Protestantism, but more. Yeah, and like all them who are now like converting to Orthodox because they think Orthodox is Catholicism, but more. So like they're just chasing a high they can't reach. I'm kind of curious of what like turned you on to this topic.
I mean, like, I think you can probably relate. Well, both of you can relate that, like, you know, being raised Catholic, like, you have like a certain amount of, I suppose, cultural indoctrination, and like so much of this stuff, like, just lingers in the background of your brain. So when you like see people post stuff about it, it's like a kind of uncanny valley that there's like they're almost there. They have like a lot of the like trappings and like somewhat of the aesthetic, but it's not like you don't know anything about like liturgy or, you know, dogmatic thinking or like the Nazi Pope. Well, they probably do know about the Nazi Pope, giving their politics.
They love the Nazi Pope.
Yeah.
But I just find it so fascinating because like it's something that has like super captured a certain segment of people online that universally like tend to be quite young. They're either like teenagers or like in their early 20s. And I think it says a lot about this, I suppose, like cultural thing online of like a lot of people turning to like alternative ways of thinking and alternative spaces in order to kind of make sense of the world. And like these freaks have arrived at Catholicism.
Yeah, because like I think something that's kind of hard to explain to Americans, because I guess they never experience, because like one reading of like the Catholic Protestant divide, like historically, is Catholicism is the religion, is the social order of feudalism, and Protestantism is the social order of capitalism. And thus like America didn't really have a feudal stage, and a huge part of Catholicism is just like, this is the way life is. Don't think about it too much. Don't worry about it. It's fine. This is your lot in life. Accept it. You are a serf. You're kind of shit. That's the Lord. He kind of rules. Don't worry. Don't think about it. There's no other options. Don't think about it. Whereas like America kind of arrives in this place of like thinking about religion all the goddamn time, because you just get to pick your own flavor of it. You get to choose which Protestantism you want to be and which one suits your life best. And like you are an individual making a series of choices. That always kind of strikes me as like, and that's kind of like how they approach Catholicism. I was like, this is something where this is another choice. This is another cereal that I can pick. Whereas like Catholic countries are like, this is default.
Yeah, it's funny in the sense because I remember explaining this to a friend of mine who's from India and like didn't really know a whole lot about like the history of like Catholicism and Protestantism. And the way I explained it was like, imagine at one point there was in terms of like Christianity, there was one flavor of ice cream that was vanilla. Then we had chocolate, and then now we have all these other variations after chocolate, but vanilla is still there. And even within vanilla, you have like Madagascan vanilla. You have like all these like slightly different tweaks, which I would say that like Catholicism in Europe, because of its history, has like all like slight variations that like depend so much on culture. Like like Spanish Catholicism is like very different than Irish Catholicism, and it's like so much wrapped up in culture. Whereas like Protestantism, and especially like Protestantism in the New World, is like tied in with this like ideology of like self-determination, blah 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 blah. Like Manifest Destiny is like a genocidal project that happened because of Protestantism and like, you know, Puritanism in the New World. But it's like, it's what I find so funny about these people is that like they want to kind of square that circle, but they just want to do Protestantism that looks like a Lana Del Rey video.
Because yeah, like to go into your like to the food and ice cream metaphor, I kind of feel like I wouldn't even say that Catholicism's vanilla ice cream. Catholicism's like tap water, like it just
or
like
milk.
It comes standard, and like yeah, it tastes kind of different in different parts of the world, I guess. But like it's there. You don't really think about it. You don't go to the shop to pick it. Whereas like Pros is that you go to the shop and pick it kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and like it's so interesting in the way that like it manifests online, in that like it is mainly to do with like aesthetics. Like you have on TikTok, you've like people posting like edits of like fucking King Baldwin the Sixth as like the defense of Jerusalem against like Saladin, and it's like, yeah, he died of leprosy like on the battlefield, but like you are like a 15-year-old, you have to go to like IT class. Shut the fuck up. Like,
Yeah, and they use sorry, going on.
Oh no, go on.
It's just that they use that movie with Edward Norton.
Kingdom of
is his
Heaven.
name, I think. Kingdom of Heaven, yeah. Because aesthetically, that movie is really fucking good. Like, and the way that, like the sort of like dresses and everything that they wear, and just like the weird mask that he wears because his face was literally melting off. And like, yeah, sorry. It's just like, it's so funny because it's literally the same edit, just like with a slightly different music, or maybe the scenes are a little bit changed, but it's just the fucking same all the time.
Yeah, and it's like, it is this, I suppose, aestheticization of like all kind of like online movements, especially in the past like 4 years, where like so much like cultural, political, like social movements are tied to like a specific aesthetic. Like when you think about people who are like anti-vaccine, a very specific kind of visual comes to your mind, and I think it's like, it's an evolution of like the return people. Like you don't have Varg Vikernes like doing kung fu in the woods anymore. You have like 15-year-olds posting on TikTok of like AI edits of like a guy, his wife, and like their 17 children, and it's like,
yeah,
it's like, but it's I kind of like think of it as like, it's atheistic Catholicism. It's like, there is none of the God shit here. It's just like, oh, we want women to not have rights, no minorities, and like I get to post like little Dark Age edits like every day.
I really, really hope there's a black pope soon. Just guys.
It'd be so good.
Africa is like the biggest grower in the religion. Fuck it, get a black pope up there.
Yeah, we got to go where the money is. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely, because that's what it's about at the end of the day. Yeah, because like I don't. It's really weird looking at their conception of it, because I think the first thing that I find jarring about it is even talking about it to begin with. Because like I think in Catholic countries a lot of the times it just goes unspoken. Uma, you can maybe tell me, but like Ireland was always a big one for never really talking about your faith. And there are people who would like invoke, people in politics and people in culture who would invoke God and doing the right thing or whatever. But like, again, even they were just kind of like, oh, it's kind of a given, you know, like it's just there. And there's no like, no one has to talk about it. No one has to explain it. No one has to say what they believe, because we all just kind of either assume that we're all lapsed Catholics, or everyone's like, I feel like lapsed Catholics in Ireland assume everyone else around them is a lapsed Catholic. And then like devout Catholics assume everyone around them is a devout Catholic. Like, but no one ever interrogates it. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's kind of similar in Spain. However, with Spain now, since the dictatorship, Catholicism is just like, if you're a young person and you're a Catholic, you're probably a fascist as well. Like it's very much, yeah, like you're a Francoist. It's very much tied together now. Obviously, not like my grandma is Catholic, but like obviously she's not a Francoist. Like old people, maybe it's not so intertwined, but younger people or people from my parents' generation, it's the people that talk about it as well. You know, like right wingers, fascists, Francoists are like, you know, especially now with a lot of the immigration being from different faiths, obviously they're like, oh, you know, we're losing Catholicism and we're losing God and like whatever. And you do have politicians like Vox politicians or even Pepe politicians talking about God or like, yeah, thanking God and stuff like that. It's mostly the right wing / fascist people that are open about being Catholics, because since Franco, it has been intertwined with each other, like your political beliefs and being religious. Like, I don't know any person that is a leftist or like centrist, whatever, that believes in God, like, or is like a practicing Catholic.
And that's the thing that I always found like fascinating, like comparing Spain to Ireland, and that like Catholicism in Spain has always seemed to me to be like inherently so much more explicitly political. Like it's so much more intertwined, whereas in Ireland, while the Catholic Church was still so powerful, it was kind of like this kind of soft cloak and dagger power, where it's like the Catholic Church was there making all the decisions, but it was kind of like we just didn't acknowledge it. Whereas like doctrinally in Spain, it was like much more at the forefront of like, you know, God, country, etc., etc.
Yeah, like Franco called the Spanish Civil War the Crusades.
Yeah.
Like it was, maybe, I don't know, in the 30s, Catholicism was before the Spanish Civil War broke out. Maybe Catholicism was more the Irish version, or like quote unquote more chill. But but yeah, after Franco, during Franco and after Franco, it's basically been like that. Like, especially if you're young, like if you see an old person, you're like, yeah, of course they're Catholic because they grew up in a different time or whatever. Yeah. But if you see a young person, you're like, you know, like,
it's probably like in a way, it's like how you say the thing you want to say without saying it is like, oh, I'm a Catholic, or you're like someone like Eduard Habsburg is like, yeah, I'm posting about anime, but I'm also like a fascist. It's like
exactly, you know, yeah. But also, it is honestly in Spain, it's just so fully intertwined with politics. Like, there's this, I forgot the name of the church, but there's this big like cathedral that, you know, like a pilgrimage kind of place. I forgot the name. I don't think it's in Galicia, no, but it's like it's an important one. Right. I think it's like the Virgen del Rocío. Anyway, whatever, like some virgin, whatever. And they sell like bracelets of the name of the church, or like the Virgin Mary, with like the Spanish flag. Like the colors are the Spanish flag, and all Vox voters, all fascists wear that bracelet. So it's just so intertwined. You're like, you know, you're mixing your love of the country, which means you're fascist, basically, with the Virgin Mary or the Virgin of, whatever.
Yeah, because like to my limited experience of Spain, which is like the opposite end of the country, like in Andalusia, you have like the big kind of Holy Week parades. And then like at Christmas, there's like a TV show where a bunch of altar boys do the lotto, basically. Yeah. But like from this outside perspective, it's just like, this is kind of Catholic as fuck. And then like the old Catholics are there just being like, yes, it is. And it's great. But then like newer and younger people, like even like Gen X people, are just kind of like, it's just Spanish. Like it's not like, they've kind of like divorced it from being Catholic. It's like, obviously if you push them on, they're like, oh yeah, that is like a Catholic tradition. But like, we still kind of like watch it, or we think of it as normal just because it is Spanish.
I mean, to be fair, the Holy Week in Andalusia, it's a spectacle, right? Because they have all these massive, I don't know how to even call it, like just figures and statues that they carry on their shoulders, and like, and the you know, the
25 metric tons of candles being carried on the back of like a 30.
Yeah, exactly. So of course, like 99.9% of the people there are Catholics, but I expect some people go to just see how beautiful it is, because it is beautiful. But But yeah, I would judge a little bit the young people in there, to be honest. Like I wouldn't feel comfortable around these people, even if they're just Catholics, because Catholicism is big in the south of Spain. It's just now it's so tainted in Spain since Franco that I would feel a bit like, sure, you only believe in God, quote unquote.
And is it kind of like, because I would get this same vibe would happen in Ireland of like, okay, if you go to Holy Week and you're kind of like dressed up in a suit, if you're like under the age of 11 and you're there with your granny, that's kind of like fine because she kind of basically decided what you were wearing.
Yeah.
But if you're like showing up as a teenager, still in the like prim and proper suit, and like you've made being Catholic a part of your like identity as like a teen, the age when you're meant to be like kissing for the first time, that's kind of like fucked vibes because like we have like that's a minority, but we have those guys here in Ireland too.
Yeah,
and
they
one.
Yeah,
Enoch Burke. Yeah,
exactly.
Basically.
Oh my god. But you see people, you see videos from the Holy Week, and like just young people like crying because the statue of the Virgin Mary is like, passing in front of them. And I'm sorry, but like maybe they're the best people ever. Maybe they're like even communists. I don't know, but it's just it as a person that was raised in, in Spain, quote unquote, it is very icky. I just like, I don't know. Especially like my dad was, he was like 20 when Franco died. So he was raised with all of that. So it's funny because I was raised very much like anti-Catholic. Like my dad was like, fuck them, fuck this, fuck the church, fuck, So.
We're starting a new branch of Antifa called Antica. It's like anti-Catholic.
Exactly.
I think I was gonna say, like, I think the thing that really draws, I think, a lot of people to it is that out of like all the world faiths, I think Catholicism is like the most easily accessible. Like, it's very hard to convert to Judaism. Like, if you want to convert to Islam, you take the Shahada. Like, there is a certain amount of like spiritual training that is expected of you. Protestantism, by its definition, doesn't really have a visual aesthetic because of obviously being anti-idolatry and like frivolous things. Catholicism has the most like easily accessible aesthetic because we have so much kind of historical ephemera from it, like paintings, architecture, culture in terms of like plays, music, books. It's like so much more present, and like there's no real gatekeepers in terms of like becoming a Catholic, even just saying you're a Catholic, because like most Catholics are lapsed Catholics. Like, there's very, out of like the global Catholic community, there's very few people who are like active practicing hardcore Catholics. Like, and in most countries, particularly in the West, is like the people who are like hardcore Catholics are the freaks. Like, your Enoch Burks are going to stand outside of school because it's like, oh, I am not going to respect someone's pronouns. And it's like, like in modern times, like people who are hardcore Catholics are like very reactionary, very traditional. And it's like, if you want to be like a real traditionalist, go become like a Mennonite, become an Amish person, but you can't post that on TikTok because by definition, like, you don't have buttons. So it's like, I think it's natural in a way for like, I suppose, people to explore this sort of stuff, and like, instead of like your 21-year-old, classmate in your politics class becoming like I don't know, being obsessed with like Hinduism and like learning about the the cycle of samsara, he's now like posting like fascist memes on his Instagram story and like pretending to go to confession.
Yeah, it's really weird, but like, yeah, to your point, like church attendance in like every Catholic country, that like, if you ask an American, name a Catholic country, church attendance in pretty much all of them are just going down. Like, Catholic church attendance, I think, is pretty much only going up in places where like the dominant population is not Catholic. When you're like an embattled Catholic, like I think Catholic church attendance in like Australia, for example, goes up, and like in South Korea is going up, but like those are not Catholic countries historically anyway. So like, yeah, like it's going down in Ireland, it's going down in Spain, it's going down in France.
In Spain, they show it on TV though. So they show mass on TV on the public TV as well. Which
I thought
we
there
all
was like yeah.
It's insane. And
bring it full circle. This is the charts that he was showing the Nazi Pope. He was showing mass attendance charts.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because I was going to say, like, Spanish Bloomberg, I thought you meant they showed the, like, attendance figures. It's like, it's...
No. Like actual mass from, like, this random... I don't even know, like, if they choose different churches or it's the same. But whenever I stay with my grandma, who is too old to, like, physically go to church, every Sunday she just turns it on. And it's kind of, like... I mean, it's cute because I love her, but it's weird in general because, like, you know, she's sitting in the couch and, like, she will stand up when the priest says stand up. Like, it's like she does the whole thing, like, in her living room. So maybe all the old people, you know, they're still, quote unquote, going to church, but not really physically.
Both the Catholic churches in Germany and Ireland both switched to, like, Twitch streaming during the pandemic. Which
Catholic priest Twitch streamer absolutely stomping people in Fortnite.
I bet there's one. Yeah.
I do. Okay, so then I think this gets to some ideas. I think some things that we talked about in the chat, which is I love bringing up my categorical understanding, my split of like the two types of European Catholicism, which is cold Catholic, hot Catholic. Hot Catholic being like, you know, for example, like the president of Spain or the president of Portugal is like currently dating one of his former students and cheating on his wife, but it's okay because he told God about it. I'm not
being like the perfect example of this, like him saying when he got caught with all these like bunga bunga parties, which ironically I found out is a term that was told to him by Muammar Gaddafi. My favorite topic, Gaddafi coming up as usual, but like one of the things he said is like only God can judge me for my actions, and it's like doctrinally it is like which branch of Catholic is it like, you know, that kind of focus on penance is like, we can ask better to ask for permission than forgiveness, or better to ask permission than forgiveness. You know, it's like, am I going to be a good Catholic and do nothing and like, you know, sit in my shame cupboard like every weekend, or am I going to be Silvio Berlusconi and like go to the sex party and mass on Sunday?
I think my favorite example of like this divide is, I'm not sure if I've said this before in the podcast, but like when Owen O'Duffy, who was like I know you guys know who he is, but for the people, he was a fascist Irish leader who got some men to go to Spain to fight for Franco in the Spanish Civil War. Obviously, these men were stationed in a Spanish town in the middle of nowhere. And they thought that everything would be great because they were all Catholic. However, the Spanish were horrified at how much alcohol the Irish drank and how that was like okay in their version of Catholicism. And then the Irish were horrified at the fact that the Spanish would just, you know, pay sex workers and go with sex workers. And that was okay in their version of Catholicism, but drinking wasn't.
Yeah.
You got to pick the acceptable sin, you know, you got to have some voice.
Yeah, exactly.
And as I've stated before many times, the confluence of where these two types of Catholicism collide is France, which makes France a particularly strange place. Because like we talked about it when we talk about France, but like every French like far right politician, every French conservative that is like foaming at the mouth and like talking about bikinis and is just being so like libidinal and like emotional and going with instinct all have Italian last names. And then the ones with like the French last names are just like the conservatives who like Pécresse, like who tried to be like former mayor of Paris, like for Les Républicains, is just like wearing a suit and being like, let's do business in a respectful way. Let's.
You see, like, if a Jane Birkin would have to wear a bikini, then we would not have had the incredible work of Serge Gainsbourg. You know, like it is that, like, you know, it is a sin against God that I can't get horny at the beach.
Yeah. So like that mixing, I used to think this was mapped with another way of explaining this divide was, do you do Mardi Gras or do you do Pancake Tuesday? Because like that kind of like describes the difference of vibes, right? Like imagine what you think of when you think of Mardi Gras, and then remember that in like countries like Poland and Ireland, we just kind of like, instead of that, we just sit at home and eat like a little bit of extra cake. Is basically what we do instead. Or
alternatively, here on the one I said to you, that doesn't map evenly in a straight line, but I think is like so perfect. And I think, Uma, you're going to enjoy this. My favorite dichotomy is loves their daughter, hates their sons, versus loves their sons, hates their daughters.
So Irish is love their sons and hate their daughters. Hate your daughter. Yeah. I mean, fair.
But it's similar. Like if you look at even like Poland, another like very Catholic country, is like loves their daughters, hates their sons. It's like you know, and it like maps on like weirdly in different parts, but it's in each country is almost universal. Like Ireland is loves your like large stupid son, but like send your daughter to a Magdalene laundry. Like,
yeah. Jesus.
Yeah, not mean to joke about that. That is, you know, Sinead O'Connor is the greatest martyr of the 20th century. That's all I'm going to say. I think about her a lot.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, do we have any other dichotomies? I'm trying to think. Like another kind of way I thought about this is like for like the cold Catholic, hot Catholic thing is I feel like hot Catholics got the like, you know, they're the ones who seize control of their nations, right? Like they're in charge. Whereas I feel like all the cold Catholics are like, you exist in a largely Protestant context. Like the Irish, for example, under the thumb of the English, or the Polish under the thumb of the Germans, or like the Austrians always comparing themselves to the Protestant German kind of thing. Yeah, that's kind of like my other way of thinking of it. But that always leads me to the question of like I really want to have someone who's like a real understander of Italian types of guys on this podcast one day and just be like, what are Protestants like in your country? Like, what's that like? Like
new
do they even exist? Yeah.
Protestant watch.
There surely has to be more than zero, right? Like there has to be one.
Well, I think it's like it always, not to, you know, always bring it back to like that divide between Catholicism and Protestantism, is that like Protestantism is like, and excluding American Protestantism, because that's like a whole different thing, is like it particularly in Europe, it seems like Protestantism is like so divorced from like any like most functions of the state or like daily living, and it's more of a like elected choice. Like you have to really choose to be a Protestant, other than like getting baptized and it's like on some forms you fill out. Whereas like Catholicism is like, it's so baked into most countries that are still Catholic. Like,
yeah, I kind of get the impression that like if you want to see like Protestantism baked into the society, that's basically the Nordics. Because like I feel like Norwegian Christianity is very like cultural and dominant and stuff in a way, like here's our beautiful wooden churches, and of course we are all Lutheran kind of shit. That's like I think the closest you get, but like it's not like Christianity in Norway is very different from Christianity in England, where it's all kind of viewed as being like being Christian is kind of just viewed as weird. Like even though, like, yes, technically we have like a king, and I guess a king is appointed by God, I guess. Don't make me think about it too much.
But like, this is why I like always bring it back to like when I talk about like online Catholics, is like so much of this comes back to Lana Del Rey, like intentionally or otherwise. Like, it's true. If you look at like the aesthetics of like particularly like the ultraviolence period, but like her entire kind of oeuvre, it's like so defined by like Catholic imagery, and like particularly like Southern European Catholic imagery.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's both meant to be like very chaste and innocent, and like her whole like Lolita thing, but also it's like, oh, you're also meant to feel a bit horny about it. And it's like, I think that's what's really appealing to like young people, is that like you can kind of have both. It is like Catholic Protestantism, like it's taking this like marketable aesthetic, and like, you know, but artists have been doing this for hundreds of years of like, let's make Catholicism horny. And it's like,
yeah, I mean, like, it's the gussied up version of buying a nun costume from a sex shop, like, or like anime Catholicism, which is like every nun and every priest is like a dime piece, and then also on the side they hunt vampires for the Vatican. And that's like what Japan thinks.
It's like the appeal of taboo as well, in the sense that like a lot of that stuff originated in like the subversion of like the Catholic Church's like control on culture in a lot of countries, and it was like you saw a lot of it in like gay leather scenes in like the 50s and 60s, of like subversions of like images of priests and, you know, of like Christian imagery. I think it's more so that like the reason these people like don't necessarily become Protestants, but also weirdly why some of them become Orthodox, is that like Protestantism's like taboos is like, don't be gay or you'll burn forever. Catholics have that as well, but it's like the things that like are taboo for Protestantism are like so much more material, whereas like Catholicism is like, all the taboos are like your inner world and like extremely spiritual, and like that's so much easier to like subvert, because it's like, oh, a priest isn't meant to be sexy.
Yeah. It's a little less existential, whereas like you can't really play with the taboo of being gay or not, because it's like, well, I am, so no. Like,
and I think as well that like it not helps, but like Protestantism, like particularly obviously like America is like a massive like cultural influence around the world, that like Christianity in America is like tied up in everything, and when it's tied up in everything, it's very hard to subvert it. Like, whereas like in say like Ireland or in like Spain, I have like Spanish like punk records from like the early 80s beside me, and like the amount of like crosses and nuns and stuff on it is like great, but it's like when the kind of visuals of it are like so easy to subvert, it's so much easier to kind of do it. And now we're doing like the reverse of that, because those symbols aren't as powerful anymore. So like these like 21-year-olds from like New York who are like wearing like frilly socks are like, oh, I'm going to become a Catholic, because like that's, you know, subversive now, because these symbols don't have power and are seen as lame, and I'm going to reclaim what's lame. And it goes into like a whole different direction of like cultural criticism. But it's like, yeah, I think it's like trying to ascribe cultural power to symbols that don't seem relevant anymore, in a way that's like the symbols that are like culturally powerful now are like money, influence, like how much of an Instagram following you have. And you see like so much of like stuff that is isn't counterculture, but is desperately trying to be counterculture, is like trying to subvert those things.
Mm-hmm. Did you freeze? I know. I thought Kieran froze.
Yeah, right. I thought you guys froze. That was a very good point. I was like, do I have anything to add to this? I was like, actually, I don't. This is just
no.
a very good point.
yeah, exactly same.
How do I vamp? we are coming at time, so I do have to say, Tom, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you on the internet?
So you can find me on Twitter at got it at Guineys. That's GUINEYS. You can listen to one of my shows, Beneath the Skin. It's a show about the history of everything, told through the history of tattoos. And I'm also the co-host of Lions Head by Donkeys, a show about military history failures. And I am the producer of Glue Factory. It's a video comedy podcast from some of the good people over at Trash Future that like has no themes and is like extremely chaotic to edit, but is very, very funny.
Nice.
Hell yeah. Do check all that stuff out. There will be links in the description. And with that, I will say, catch you on the bonus feed. Ciao, ciao.
Bye bye.